everyone. My name is Deepak Sharma, and I'm the engineering lead on public Pci APIs. So when it comes to the checkout via API, sky is the limit. So the picture that you're looking at was recently taken when I went for an expedition to hike Kilimanjaro. And I did this hike with a couple of my friends, and we made it to the top. We made it to the top, essentially. And this peak, this mountain is a little shy of 20,000 feet, actually. And it was an incredible experience to scale such height. And it is a good analogy for the focus of this session, too. Pci APIs enable contextual commerce. And sky is the limit when it comes to contextual commerce. You would hear a little more about my story later in the talk. So the agenda of our talk is, so Kevin Kearns, my partner in crime, would go over the high-level overview of buying an item using Pci APIs, followed by a demo. And then I would dive into little technical details of buying an item using the Pci APIs. Then we'll open up for Q&A. So with that, I'm going to hand over to Kevin Kearns.
Hey guys, so my name is Kevin Kearns. As Deepak just introduced me. Thank you, Deepak. I'm the product manager for the Pci APIs, and I'm going to give you a high-level overview, as he mentioned, of how the checkout experience works with the Pci APIs. What I want to talk to you about first, actually, is a little bit of a passion of mine and talk about myself. I've been buying and selling bicycles and bicycle parts on eBay for over 15 years, long before I joined eBay. I joined eBay just a year ago, and let me just talk about the first bicycle that I purchased. I moved to the United States from Canada in 2003, and as a gift to myself, I went onto eBay. I was looking for a new bicycle. Bought that bicycle based on the pictures and descriptions that I saw, and through the years continued to ride that bike. It's still my primary single bicycle today. In fact, I just rode it this weekend in that 100-degree weather. A little bit silly, I think, but but it's still an awesome bike to ride. My wife and I also ride bicycles. In fact, we ride a tandem or a two-person bicycle. I don't know if any of you are familiar with a tandem bicycle. Some people call them divorce bikes. But they actually worked for us. We learned how to ride a tandem bicycle, or I should say we started riding the tandem bicycle very shortly after we moved down to the Bay Area. We went to Napa, and they have this cool thing where you do a bicycle wine tour. And there were a couple of single bikes, and there was a tandem bike, and we just took off from there. It just flourished. Just last year, and Ruchika is always amazed when I tell this story. Just last year, we decided it was time to upgrade our tandem bicycle, and we came across this amazing bicycle on eBay. I actually bought it while my wife was traveling without her permission, and I got the thumbs up when she got home from the trip. So my name is Kevin Kearns, and I'm a treasure hunter. Absolutely a treasure hunter on eBay. What you're looking at above me right now on the left is my wife's bike. It's our new bike to the stable. My wife just recently joined a triathlon club, and she's learning and training for her triathlon later this year. And as it turns out, the cycling event in triathlon is not a team sport. So she needed her own single bike. And so on the left, you see above me is the bike as we received it, as we purchased. And on the right, what you see is where it ended up. Some upgrades and some changes that we need to make to be able to make the bike rideable for my wife. So I want to pause here for a second. Give yourselves a chance to look at the two pictures. And then I want to open it up to the group and just see if you can play the game or play the puzzle that I used to play as a child and spot the differences. Okay, I heard seat. Seat. Okay, let's start with seat first. Absolutely. The wedge that you see on the left was clearly not going to work for my wife. And the new seat that you see on the right was much more comfortable and was absolutely required for her to be able to ride this bike. If you look really carefully at the seat itself, you'll see it's also a little bit more forward on the right image. It's not set back as much. And if you look at the black attachment that's just underneath the seat, it's actually different. I had to buy a new part. I actually had to go find that part because this bicycle is a 5-year-old bicycle. Parts aren't stocked in the standard stores. This is a unique or custom bicycle. And the only place I could find that part was actually on eBay. One other thing that I want to point out about the seat, you may have noticed, is there's no physical seat post. Adjustment of the seat up and down is done by cutting the frame. The seat post is attached to the frame. If you've ever heard the expression measure twice, cut once, if I cut this too far, I've just created a bicycle that's only usable for someone that's between the dimensions or the height of 5'5" and 5'5". You know, I've basically reduced the market, and I'd have to resell this part. It would be too small, too unusable for my wife. So yes, that was something that was nerve-wracking for me. It's like, whoa, you know, it was measured probably 100 times and cut sliver at a time to get to the right dimension. So another difference, I heard a couple of derailleur gears, exactly. I get an opportunity, living in the Bay Area, I get an opportunity to ride in some of the best cycling in the world. The Bay Area has beautiful scenery, able to ride to the coast if you want to, able to basically take any of the routes around the area, and most of the drivers are cycling friendly. So they're familiar with seeing large groups of cyclists. They're used to driving around and giving way for cyclists. We're really, really fortunate. And what I mentioned about going to the coast, there's a hill between us and the coast. And if you look at the image on the left, the gears, they're pretty small on the back of the bike. What we needed to do to be able to go up hills is actually get easier gears, better gears to be able to go up the hills. And something that I learned when I was doing my research and buying the parts is that the rear derailleur, something someone else pointed out, needed to change. The gears, as they get bigger, the derailleur needed to get longer to be able to accommodate all those things. So how did I do all of this upgrade? I'm very hands-on. How did I do all of this work? Like I did since I bought my first bike way back in 2003 as a gift to myself when I moved to California, I went to Google search. I went to forums, common road bike forums that describe and explain details, all the way down to the details of this custom bike and the details of the components that were going and are actually on the bike. And then from those forums, I go to eBay and I go find the parts that I need to buy. That's great. So there are a couple of other changes. I know some people also pointed out some of the water bottle cages. If you really had your OCD on full power, you might have noticed that the tires also changed. But what I want to call out now is this whole process of change that I did in terms of upgrading and improving the bike is broken. And what I mean by broken is there was a couple of issues in the whole process, and the first one was really around confidence. So I've been doing a lot of research on these forums, and then I'm looking on eBay to be able to buy the products. And as I'm bouncing back and forth between the forums and eBay, I'm not sure, am I looking at the right part? Am I going to buy the right part? Is it going to fit my bike? It turns out that that black thing between the seat and the seat post, there's a lot of different options that are available, and it was really hard for me to figure out that I was buying the right thing. Ultimately, I did find it, and I was able to complete that transaction. But the reality is that lack of confidence that I had, that lack of being immersed in knowing what did I want to buy and what did I actually buy, that delayed, or the elapsed time that happened between doing the research and actually completing a transaction, receiving the parts, was on the order of months. Should have been on the order of minutes. And what the buy APIs do for us today, the buy APIs would allow us to, when I'm on the forums, when I'm looking and researching the parts that I need to buy, have those parts available for me. Have the parts that I should want to buy on that forum. be in context, know that I'm buying the right part, and allow me to check out when I want to check out and buy that part. That's what the buy APIs give to us. They bring us into context and they enable contextual commerce. So maybe you're not into bikes. Maybe you are like me. I just finished a kitchen renovation in my house a few years after Ruchika did her renovation. And I'm now thinking about, I need a deck. I just finished a kitchen renovation. I've got a beautiful sliding door going into the backyard, and I've got concrete. And wouldn't it be great to bring the inside out or the outside in? I'm going to be going onto various sites to try and figure out what support do I need for the deck, what materials do I need to build this deck. And I'd also like to know, is my 9-volt cordless drill going to cut it? Or am I going to have to buy a new drill? If on these sites I'm reading on how to build, and here are the tools you're going to need to be able to build that deck, and by the way, here's where you can buy them, ebay.com. This is contextual commerce. Maybe you're not into home renovations, do it yourself. Again, like Ruchika mentioned earlier, my wife is totally into entertaining. She's always on different recipe sites, looking at new recipes. Look at the recipe. What are the pots that you need, the pans you need? Is there anything special that you need? Have them available for sale. Are there ingredients that are really hard to find in grocery stores? Have those available for sale. You can find spices on eBay. You can find a lot of these things on eBay. Have them on the site. Be in context. Know that this is exactly what you need for that recipe. That's what our buy APIs do. So earlier, Ruchika talked to you about the browse APIs. She talked about the ability to search. She talked to you about the ability to feed, as well as the ability to get item details for the APIs. And she also talked about marketing, being able to create a browse experience. That's really where we want to put a lot of effort moving forward. But today, Deepak and I got the benefit of being able to talk about the magic of the APIs. This is where we're really excited. We're giving you the ability to create a secure checkout session, complete a transaction, and then get the status update on that transaction. And it's really simple. It's 3 simple steps. Step number 1, create a checkout session, initiate the checkout session. All you need to do is give us who is buying this item, where do they want it shipped, and what do they want to buy. It's that simple. Send that to us, and you've created a checkout session. Step number 2, update payment information. Basically, give us a credit card that they want to pay for the parts. There's a little bit of details that need to be considered when we're in this step. PCI compliance or payment card industry compliance come to mind. Deepak's going to talk a little bit about that later in the session. But basically, create the session, update the payment, and then the last step, and it's really simple, place the order. You send a simple command, and you've completed a transaction. It's simple as that. 1, 2, 3, you've created a transaction, you've completed the transaction, all without redirecting to ebay.com. Some of you that were really good at picking out the differences in the bike will notice that there's actually a 4th box up here. In the 4th box is the ability to get the status of the order. Was the order paid? Is it completed? What's the shipping status? Delivered? All of this information is available as part of the order APIs. And if that's not enough, one of the things that we've also done is we've extended the EPN affiliate program to cover the buy APIs. So if you're not familiar, I know that there was a session last week, and there's a few people here from that session. EPN, or eBay Partner Network, is an affiliate program that pays our partners or affiliates to redirect customers to eBay to check out transactions. And that payment is a percentage of eBay revenue as a function of the category that you're redirecting in the purchases that are completed. What we've done is we've extended that partner network, that affiliate program, to the buy APIs as well. So now you can keep all of your users, keep your customers in your experience, complete the transaction, have them buy eBay product, and still get the benefits of the EPN partner network. All of this is available through our guest flow or our guest checkout flow. And basically, it expands the breadth or expands the capability of our partner network to be able to bring new customers to eBay. Since we launched last year, we launched domestically for the US. What that means is products that are available for sale in the US are available to ship and purchase in the US. Coming very soon, we're going to be launching in Germany and in the UK. And shortly after that, we're covering Canada, Australia, France, Italy, and Spain. Again, domestic. Available for parts or inventory available for sale in Germany, ready to ship or to a customer in Germany. But once we've launched all of those sites, we're opening up CBT or cross-border trade. And so now, if you're sitting in the United States, you see something available and of interest from the UK or Germany, our buy APIs will enable that cross-border trade. Our buy APIs will provide and enable the ability to make that transaction just like you can when you're on eBay.com, but with keeping in your experience without actually going to eBay.com. We launched in October, and we've got a pretty strong pipeline of partners that have launched since then. What you're seeing above me is a sample of those partners. We've also got a pretty strong pipeline, as Ruchika mentioned, of partners that are engaging with us, giving us feedback, and moving forward. But what I want to really point out is the partner in the top left. It's eBay. Ruchika mentioned a couple of partners earlier, or a couple of integrations earlier. We're eating our dog food. And really what I'm trying to say here is we're serious about this integration. We're committed to this integration with the buy APIs, and we're continuing to invest in this. The next thing I want to do before I reach out and hand this back over to Deepak to get into the nuts and bolts is I want to give you a small little demonstration of one of the partners that's on this list and what they've done with the buy APIs. I talked about enabling contextual commerce, and I think this is a great example of being in context, having confidence, and reducing the time to complete a transaction. Is anyone from Shift Mobility in the room here? Awesome. Thank you for being here. So I'm going to show you a demo, if we can move to the computer, of Shift Mobility's application that they created. If we can go to my computer now, the application that they created. There we go. The application they created integrating with our buy APIs. And I want to thank you for letting us show this demonstration. Shift Mobility is an in the auto industry, basically supporting our or their shop repair and mechanics, enabled to minimize or reduce or improve the way that they go about getting parts for auto repairs. And what they've done is they've integrated with the buy API to be able to bring or expose eBay's huge portfolio of motor parts to their end customers. Some interesting facts about the work that's done in a lot of mechanic shops or by mechanics is a lot of time is spent in terms of creating invoices. A lot of time is spent in basically validating or confirming that you're buying the right parts to be able to do the repairs that you need to do. And in fact, as much as or more than 15 minutes per repair is spent just sourcing parts. And so Shift Mobility sees opportunity to be able to huge opportunity to be able to cut down on all of those components and optimize the flow of the transactions of, creating an invoice, creating an estimate, and ultimately completing a repair. So I'm going to go through their ShopLite experience that they created, which is, as I said, an eBay experience integration. And you can see, again, context. This is really important. The ability to scan a VIN of the car and then use that VIN to know the context of parts that you would want to purchase. If you've got an existing customer, the ability to look up their license plate and be able to pull history of the information and of the details that you're able to, historically details of what you've done and what you need to do. And so as I follow through this sample, I'm just going to punch in a simple input as if I was a mechanic of an existing customer that's coming back for a repair. It's a 2013 Ford Focus SE. If I wanted to, I could look at all the details that they've populated on that product itself, but I'm going to go forward and use this vehicle to look at parts that may be available for a particular repair. They've integrated all of the features that you would want as a repair shop to be able to put in customer or fleet information, but let's just go straight to skip and provide an estimate. Again, all of the details that you might want to create an estimate, all the details that you might want to create an invoice, and the ability, if we look at the auto parts, the ability to find on eBay the parts that you're looking for. So in this case, I'm going to look for some shocks and struts. What you're seeing is the result of a live search, looking for shocks and struts for a 2013 Ford Focus. And they've integrated to some of our ability to filter features, aspects. I'm interested in OEM only. And again, updating the search based on OEM only. I'm also interested in new only. I've now got myself a list of new OEM parts that are available for sale on eBay that are available for this repair that I'm interested in doing. I'm going to look at the rear shock assembly. That's what I was looking for. I click on the link, and now they've hit our item API. They've pulled all the details, and they've done a great job of making it look very similar to the eBay experience of the part, the description, the seller information, feedback, all of the things that you would want to be able to provide confidence in completing a transaction, and full description, as I mentioned, down below. All of this is being provided by the item API. I'm going to add it to my cart, and you'll see that the cart has an item in it, and I'm going to go through a checkout flow now. I practiced this earlier, so now I've got 2 in my cart. I don't want 2, I just want one of these things. So one of the things I talked about earlier was the ability to update payment information. We're also able to update quantity, update a lot of details as part of this checkout flow, but let me just reduce this quantity 2 to quantity 1. And we've just updated the quantity from 2 to 1. Very simple in creating that checkout experience. So let's check it out. I could just create an estimate, or I could continue shopping if I need some more parts, but let's check this out and follow this through. eBay user agreement. This is an experience that you will see as part of the integration. We want our customers to know you're on eBay, and these are the experiences that you should expect as purchasing parts on eBay. I'm going to agree, move forward. And what you're going to see loading up on the page in a second is the part I'm interested in buying. So this is creating the checkout session. They already know who I am as a mechanic. I'm Josh, not Kevin today. And I've got the parts that I'm interested in, and all I have to do at this point is input my credit card information and verify and confirm and pay. I'm not going to put my credit card information in right now. I don't, unlike Ruchika who might, but this is an awesome implementation. This is exactly what we're talking about, being able to, in context, find the part you're looking for, know you've got the right part, 2013 compatible, and basically complete the transaction in seconds, not in weeks. And the use case of being able to do that for auto mechanics, for auto shops, is exactly the type of experimentation, the type of integration that we think is what we want our developers to do. So at this point, I'm going to hand it over to Deepak, and he's going to go through some of the nuts and bolts of actually making these calls and completing a transaction.
Thanks, Kevin. And thanks, Melody. So Kevin talked about his story about biking, so I'm going to go back to my story about hiking Kilimanjaro. So the trip was booked through a website which included the hike permits and the support crew. And essentially, the site recommended some gears that we wanted for our hike. So I ran into the exactly same problem what Kevin talked about. The first one is the confidence. Am I buying the same item which is recommended by the site? The second one, elapsed time. It took me a while to find and buy that item. It wasn't a great experience. Had the site would have been selling those items, I definitely would have bought those items right in that experience itself. And that's exactly what public buying APIs enable. Public buy APIs enable contextual commerce, and sky's the limit in terms of opportunities. We would want our partners to show the eBay merchandise on their experiences, which is in the context, to help their buyers finding the right item. Now I'm going to switch gears, talking a little technical here. Again, I will be showing those 3 simple steps, what Kevin talked about. But before I show those 3 simple steps, let us talk about the HTTP request headers that we need for the order API. The first one is the authorization header. This is a standard HTTP request header. So this header requires the OAuth token. And this OAuth token is typically valid for 2 hours. It's a short-lived token, and I'll be talking more about it. How this token gets generated using the OAuth flows, I'll be talking later in the discussion today. The second one is the eBay C marketplace ID. This header actually signifies the marketplace from where the buyer is buying the item, right? And the third one is the eBay C end user context. So this header captures 2 values. The first one is the PayPal risk ID. So think of it as a way, this ID it helps in PayPal to detect a fraudulent guest transaction, and that's what it's meant for. I'll be talking later on that later too. The second one is the EPN campaign ID. So Kevin talked about it. This is one of the ways we help our partners for the payout. So this captures essentially the campaign ID for the partner, which essentially helps in attributing that particular transaction for the payouts. So intent of my next 8 slide is basically how a typical user flow would look like for enabling that buyer experience using our buy APIs, with those 3 simple steps. The first step. Here's on the screen what you're looking at is, which is is for the initiate checkout session. It is capturing the first name of the buyer, the last name of the buyer, the phone number, the email address, and the shipping address, of course, and along with the items that user wants to buy with the quantity. So when this request gets submitted, right, and at the very top you can look at the URI. This is the secure checkout, initiate checkout endpoint, which will help in creating this secure checkout session. Very same, what you captured in the UI is pretty much being captured in the, the JSON payload as well. So it's capturing the email address, the first name, the last name, the shipping address, along with the items. Here, the items ID there, along with the quantities. So when this request is submitted, a response comes back. So our API is RESTful, so the response comes back as a, a checkout session source. At the very top, you could see it has a checkout session ID, and that's how you identify your checkout session source. So the response also contains the, the pricing summary information, right? What is the total SAC the end buyer is going to pay? What are the shipping discounts, if they are applicable? What are the shipping costs that user is paying? And what is the total amount that user is going to pay for the entire transaction? Along with that, I mean, in the middle of it, one of the items is selected, and you can say shipping options. So there are different shipping options available for these items that are being bought. So one shipping option is typically always selected, and there are utility capabilities we have which helps in changing the shipping option. It could be by default free shipping is there, and for some reason the buyer wants to ship it in a 1 day. So if that is available, you could do that. Second step. So in this slide, UI is capturing the credit card information, which essentially gets associated with the initiate checkout session, the call the prior we just talked about. I mean, being, as, partner side captures this PCI, credit card information, you need to be PCI compliant. And, I'll be talking a little more on that, what it means. We know there are partners who are not PCI compliant, they are not into the transaction business, and there are certain pain points. So we have a solution there, and I'll be talking on that more. How it looks in terms of the request response. So again, at the very top is a secure endpoint for updating the payment information. All we need is a credit card, financial instrument. On the left is the request payload. And you can see at the URI, we need the checkout resource ID there, and that's what we need in the URI. In the payload, we capture the credit card information. It's a financial instrument that we currently support. We need the, it's a very typical thing, right? I mean, we need the credit card holder name, the expiration date, the credit card number, the CVV, and of course, the billing address. So once the call is made, the response comes back, and it's exactly the same as initiate checkout session. And you can think of which could help in painting the final confirmation page for the experience. And the final and the last page is the place order call, right? So on this screen, this is a confirmation page. So and you are giving all this information to the end buyer, where end buyer confirms, okay, this is the item he wants to buy or she wants to buy with the quantity, along with the shipping address. If everything looks fine, user is going to click on the Buy It Now button. And that's when the actual money movement is happening, and that's why the actual purchase is happening. So how it looks like in terms of the request and response, again, at the very top is a secure checkout endpoint for placing an order. We need the checkout resource ID. You can see in the URI path. The response comes back, and at this point in time, purchase order resource is created at our end. And you could see, purchase order ID is created at the very top. It has a payment status. It tells, whether the transaction failed or, it's paid. So in this case, example, it's paid. And that's it. These are very basic 3 simple steps, which essentially enables, an experience where, end buyer could buy an item using our buy APIs. So this slide essentially, gives the order status, status, like it's showing the shipping status, like it's delivered. What is the payment status is paid. It's become handy. Like, as an application, you want to show where the status is of, in terms of the shipment. If the purchase is made, as a buyer, I would like to know where the shipment is. It's being fulfilled or it's not started. Those kind of status typically comes in there. So how it looks in terms of the request response. So again, at the very top, it's the get purchase order ID, which essentially gives the details for that purchase order. All we need is the purchase order ID. And the response comes back, and this time the response is the purchase order resource. Essentially, it's contained the purchase order ID along with the pricing summary, and exactly the same. What are the taxes? What are the discounts, shipping discounts? What is the total amount that user is paying? And one of the main things that that needs to be I want to highlight is the items that are being bought, right? Do you have individual status for it? Like, what is the shipping status of that item? Because in our use case, it could happen, items could be coming from different sellers, right? So they have the different, statuses, So each item would have their own status in terms of the shipment, of course, with the payment too. And also, we give the entire, statuses on the, payment as well as the shipment as well. So at the very bottom, you can see, purchase order status, which is the entire order, shipment status along with the payment status too. So, I talked about like a couple of things in my talk. I talked about, authorization header, which takes a OAuth token. I'm going to talk about that. I'm going to talk about the Pci Compliance thing, and I'm going to talk about the PayPal risk ID. So let's start off with the OAuth thingy. So on the screen, what you see is the OAuth 2.0 client credential flow. So when this endpoint essentially is called with the client credentials like, the secret ID and the client ID, the response comes back. And the response comes back, it's an access token, and this access token is valid for like 2 hours. And it's as per the eBay security policies. So this valid duration, the point I'm trying to make is this valid duration could change in the future. So our recommendation to all our partners who are using these APIs, make sure that they read this response when the access token is minted, the response comes back with a valid duration as well. So accordingly program it. So it could change in the future. So it's kind of a defensive programming again. We just want to highlight. Tanya had a great session yesterday talking about this best practice. So this is one of the things that she called out yesterday as well. So don't assume anything. Get the data. So in the context of the order API, right? For performing a guest checkout, we need this client credential. So that's what I would like to highlight. So we need the client credential OAuth token essentially for guest checkout to happen. Coming back to the second flow, it's a OAuth 2.0 authorization code flow. It is a 3-legged OAuth flow. Here, the end user, and this end user could be a buyer or a seller, depending on the application. If you are using the public sell APIs, you definitely are seller, and if you are using the buy, you are the buyer here. So essentially, this end user is granting an access to the application so that the application can act on their behalf. That's what it is. So in the context of the order API, for performing a member checkout, what Kevin also talked about, Ruchika also mentioned that too, that it requires an access token belonging to the end user, right? And on the screen, what you see is basically a consent page where a user will grant an access to that application. And I think Gail talked about this kind of and one of the question came, it's a responsive design, so it could work in the mobile experiences too. If you have any questions, please reach out to us. I know this is something that more discussion needs to happen. If you are new to it, please reach out to us in a breakout session, or probably you can grab us after this talk too. A word on the PCI compliance. So one of the things that we talked about earlier was a screen was capturing the credit card, and I mentioned the moment you capture the credit card information, you need to be PCI compliant. And if a partner is a PCI compliant, or they are in the transaction business, they are all good. Nothing. They know what they need to be doing. But if you are not, right? So typically, so we have a solve for our partners. I mean, we totally understand, like for the small and the medium-sized businesses, they are not into transaction business, and they are not PCI compliant. They don't deal with the transactions. This could be the first time they're dealing with it. So we have a solve for them, right? So typically what happens is, there are wall service providers out there. They have some kind of offerings which essentially enable these use cases. So one of the partners that we worked with is a Braintree, and some of the partners who are in the current integration, they are talking with them, and Braintree is the company actually they're dealing with. So essentially they have an offering in terms of the forwarding API, which essentially enables these partners to use our buy APIs. I mean, so there are certain nuances to it. We can, if you really want to talk more on it, so please reach out to us. We're happy to answer those questions too. So earlier in the talk, I talked about this HTTP request header, which was X eBay C marketplace. C X eBay C end user context. It was capturing the PayPal risk ID. So as I mentioned, it's a PayPal way of detecting eBay against fraudulent transactions. So there are certain libraries that PayPal has written, and they are available for both native experiences and the web experiences. So the moment you integrate these libraries in your flow, in a nutshell, what is happening is we are saying, we have got you covered in terms of any fraudulent transaction happens. So this is something that that has to be happening for you. I mean, I think it's a good thing. You don't want that take that tool, or if some bad things are happening, you don't want to be part of that, right? I mean, we have got you covered there, which is a good thing.